In countless stories, books, and movies, organized crime has been depicted in epic, sweeping detail. Stories about murder on street corners, in broad daylight, while a shocked public looked on. These stories, some accurate, many embellished, have long served to create an environment where organized crime existed in the streets and alleys of our largest cities. Chicago, Detroit, and many other towns have acted as the backdrop to some of organized crime's most notorious bosses. But what if that was only part of the story? What if, in reality, organized crime was far more pervasive, and these crime syndicates operated under the cover of a small town? A small town where their profile would be lessened, but the opportunities just as rewarding. Could this happen? And if so, how could a rural community where everyone knows their neighbor and doors are seldom locked house gangsters without anyone knowing? Or did they know? Did they know and say nothing, as crime bosses operated freely within towns with legal resources spread too thin to investigate these crimes? These small towns share a history of organized crime, a history that is far less popularized but, in many ways, much more dramatic. Company could afford to drill numerous wells, safe in the comfort that as long as business was good on the bootlegging side, the oil business could sustain itself until a positive result was found. Charles Moskowitz, a geologist, producer, and longtime oil man, has made his living off the fields in the Clare area and knows their true value.
We've got some big fields in the Dundee. In Clare, Isabella, we've got some major pools that made millions of barrels. We were competitive.
Well, they came because of petroleum. And they were furnishing the money first. The Purple Gang did. And Meyer Lansky was here. Meyer Lansky brought money from New York, and they put about 30 there, you know, and I wanted to clear that up. He said, no, everything will be taken care of. And I said, well, no, I didn't ask for that. I just want to know if you could get the things. He said, no. He said, that's on us.
The Williston Basins in the Dakotas, and my close friend I cared for, Sam Garfield, on a handshake, put the money in the deal. They hit. And the operator-producer said, we never made a deal. I don't remember it. 2 weeks later, Sam owned the oil field. So those are persuasions.
Joe Bernstein and Sam Garfield were friends. In the early 30s, actually in 1930, Joe Bernstein was shot and badly wounded, and I guess his wife essentially told him that, you know, it's either the gang or me. So he started distancing himself from Purple Gang operations. And he had this connection. Garfield, who was involved in Mid-Michigan Petroleum, had been doing that for a number of years before Joe Bernstein was involved. And Bernstein decided to invest some money.
Sam's position, as I knew it, was he was not involved with any of the racketeering. He was strictly oil. And the money he
contacted Leibov, who by then became an attorney, and Leibov came here to Clare.
Livingston came up from Texas and moved up here. And Leibov built this house just on the other side of the river. Now those people kept their ears to the ground, and you might say, knew everything that was going on.
Livingston was a finder. He'd spot good leases in future developments. And Leibov was the financier.
Jack Livingston was big into the oil and gas business and leasing. He did the lease work, so he'd go out to a farmer and get the field lease.
Every day. Still, many romanticize about that era, a time where criminal activity was often accepted with a simple wink and a nod, when the perception of getting ahead by any means necessary was more tolerant of criminal undertakings. and the criminals themselves dressed only in the best suits. To many, these were simpler times, but in reality, they were something much more dramatic.
A.J. Doherty told me if everyone who told me they were in the bar when Leibold was shot by Livingston, you couldn't get room to walk in the whole hotel.
I heard a rumor that when Prohibition was repealed, the first 3 liquor licenses that the state issued, 2 went to Detroit, and the 3rd went to the Doherty Hotel in Clare, Michigan. You ever heard that rumor?
Well, it's a little different rumor. I heard we got the first one.
He was really ticked off about the whole thing. So Jack at that point headed up to here, and he said, "You're a no good, rotten son of a bitch." Bang, bang, bang. And they grew up together.
The first local priest loved to play poker with him, and then he'd leave for mass and then come back.
And just about the time that Jack confronted Leibold in the Doherty tap room, and bang, 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 and Leibold was dead.
I got it pulled over for drag racing in Clare when some young guys challenged me racing their motor. I got the ticket. Who do you think tried me before I went before Judge Dunlop? His cousin Willard Bicknell, and he was hard on me. Then he called Dunlop and said Charlie's innocent by virtue of being innocent, but fine him. I paid $10. This happened, but those days are gone, aren't they?
So there were 3 shots fired, and 2 of them hit Brian Geller, and he had been married only 3 weeks. I thought that was a cute little interesting twist on things. He'd been married for 3 weeks and got shot.
They thought, well, we better do something about this. Maybe the gang or someone might up and get him. So they took him over to Cadillac and put him in the police car over there for protection.
That's the end of my contribution.